Hi everyone, I'm so glad you could join me today. Parenting can sometimes feel like juggling 1,000 things at once. Bedtime battles, picky eating, attention struggles, and communication challenges. Today I want to share practical tips using ABA strategies that you can try in everyday life to make routines smoother, moments calmer, and life a little easier. We'll cover sleep, eating, attention, and communication, plus following instructions. All those moments that can feel like daily challenges but can also be opportunities for learning and growth. Let's start with sleep. Getting a child to go to bed and stay there can feel impossible, but the key is that success starts before bedtime even begins. First, set up a consistent nighttime routine that helps ease your child into bed. This routine may include brushing teeth, taking a warm bath, putting on pajamas, and having a bedtime story or calm music. Begin the routine an hour later so your child is more tired and more willing to fall asleep, and consider reducing or eliminating naps during the day. A sleep object such as a favorite stuffed animal, blanket, or even a particular song can also help. When the same object or song is paired consistently with sleeping, it increases the likelihood that your child will settle down. If your child tries to get out of bed, the key is to return them calmly and quickly with as little attention as possible. No scolding, no soothing. You need to be patient and persistent, but over time this strategy will work. Eventually, most families want their child to sleep in their own bed. The strategy is similar. Bring them back to their own bed with minimal attention whenever they try to get into yours. That includes nap times too. Next, let's talk about eating. Many families face two main challenges here. One is getting children to try less preferred foods, and helping them stay at the table during meals is the other. Convincing a child to try a food they dislike can feel overwhelming, but small gradual steps make a difference. Choose a separate practice time rather than a main meal, and use a reward system. Something motivating like a small toy, sticker, or preferred snack. Begin with foods your child already accepts, so they learn that trying the food leads to a reward. Then gradually build up. First, just have the food on the plate, then have them hold it, smell it, touch it, or maybe lick it, take a tiny bite, and eventually eat a larger portion. Move at your child's pace and avoid starting with their absolute least favorite food. Keeping a child at the table during meal times also requires planning and patience. Begin by explaining the plan. As your child eats, provide praise and give small rewards. If they leave the table before finishing, don't chase them around or scold them. Calmly get up, remind them that they haven't finished and they cannot leave the table, then return them with as little attention as possible. Adjust the challenge as they succeed or struggle, and usually begin each day at the level of difficulty you concluded with the day before. Additional tips include saving difficult foods for separate practice times, not allowing food and play or screen time at the same time, and adjusting expectations to match your child's ability. For example, letting them use a spoon if they can, or helping them if they haven't reached that point yet. Sometimes wandering during meal times is connected to general inattention, which brings us to attention building strategies. A visual timer is a simple but effective tool, one that shows the passage of time, usually with a circle that disappears as the time passes. Numbered timers can be confusing for some children, and visual timer apps are available on phones and tablets. Begin by having your child practice stopping the timer before it rings. Then add a quick task to complete before stopping the timer, like tidying up a few blocks. Gradually vary the tasks and increase their duration over time. Connecting these exercises to meaningful routines like mealtime helps children improve focus in practical and everyday contexts. Moving on to communication. Children with ASD may not naturally seek to interact, so we need to create opportunities for spontaneous communication. One strategy is to break patterns your child has learned. For example, if snack always comes in a specific box, leave it empty one day. Your child will notice, providing a reason to ask for it or comment. Another strategy is giving a child a toy briefly and then regaining possession of it. Be sensitive when using this approach, as it may not be suitable for children who cannot tolerate brief interruptions. Another approach is to make items or activities more desirable by showing enthusiasm and excitement, increasing motivation to engage and communicate. Pay attention to every attempt at communication, even small efforts, as these efforts are important opportunities to practice. Finally, following instructions can be challenging, but there are many strategies that can help. Begin with simple instructions your child can do reliably, like putting a block in a bucket. Give the instruction once and avoid repeating it endlessly. If the child does not respond, provide calm, clear feedback and help them complete it through gestures, physical guidance, or other kinds of support. If the child responds correctly, provide a meaningful consequence tailored to their motivation. You can also present instructions as a choice. For example, do you want to clean up now or in a few minutes? To give a sense of control. Use momentum by having children complete easier instructions before the harder ones, and pair preferred activities immediately before and after a target instruction to increase compliance. Be consistent and avoid giving in if the child resists. When things go well, provide clear feedback. And when things don't, stay calm, because anger usually increases disruption. So today we've covered sleep, eating, attention, spontaneous communication, and following instructions. Parenting can be demanding, and none of us get perfect at it. These strategies are tools you can apply in everyday life to help your child navigate these challenges more smoothly and develop new skills over time. Now let's get to some questions. Okay, so I've got the first question here. Let's see what they have to say. When I give instructions like put on your shoes or clean up your toys, my child ignores me or does the opposite. How can I teach them to listen and follow directions more consistently? Okay, well, this question is a very common question that I get asked by parents, because parents very often have some measure of difficulty with compliance and their child. A couple things off the top. One is, that's not just an ASD thing. It may be a little bit more challenging for the students that we work with, for the children that our parents have. Yeah, maybe. But typical kids are not necessarily that great at listening to their parents either. So don't feel so bad about that. There's another factor here that I want you all to know, which is that kids will also listen better to their teachers than to their parents, at least the vast majority of the time. And so, again, have some perspective on that aspect of it. Don't expect your children to listen as good to you as they do to their teachers and supervisors. So, with that said, of course, we don't want to just give up. We want to build up where we stand on this issue, where the parents stand. So I mentioned a little bit in the talk that you need to start with simple kinds of instructions. So you want to build up compliance from there and establish that for these simple tasks, when I ask them to get done, they're going to get done, right? And so you're going to want to follow through. Now, as you're going to have some sense of what is easier or more difficult for your child to follow through with. That's on you to have some understanding of that. And then as they're successful with the easier stuff, then you want to sort of gradually build up. It won't be like a light switch where all of a sudden they just listen to you all day. You start easy, build up from there. There's some other considerations that you can have here. One is about trying to structure up times where there are certain times that they're more certainly going to listen to you. This becomes a little bit more relevant when you get into sort of homework-like situations. So parents will very often say that, you know, they get material sent home from school that they want their child to do at home, but they just can't get them to do it. So you maybe want to set aside a certain time that you can give a specific name. You could call it homework time, but you could call it something different. You could call it, you know, mommy time or daddy time or whatever, and it happens every day. At first, maybe homework isn't what happens during that time. It is just some of these very simple instructions. It could even be a mildly preferred activity at first. The idea is just that, hey, there's this time, and during this time, you're going to listen to me, right? Again, keep it very positive and easy at first, and then go from there, building it up. Not just building up in terms of difficulty, but building it up in terms of duration too. That's one angle. Another angle is sort of what is happening if they're not listening to you. So sometimes you ask the child to do something and you can't get them to do it. So now know that right from the beginning, if you're not going to be able to follow through, you might as well just give in then. You don't want to have some big battle and lose. That's much worse than just giving up right away. So you want to give up right away if you're not going to be able to make it. That's one part. The other part is you could try to think if there's some other kind of cost that you can deliver by them not listening to you. That cost could be that there's something good that they're not going to get now, or that there's some other kind of like burden that they're going to have, or what have you. Obviously, it's very context dependent what exactly you would do, but just keep that idea in mind. That because they're not listening to you, they may get away with that, but you can maybe make it so that something else doesn't go their way for this reason, that they weren't listening to you. I hope that's helpful. Those are just some somewhat general tips, but that would apply to most circumstances, and hopefully you'll find that helpful. All right, let's try the next one. Okay, I don't always have time to sit down and play with my son. What kinds of activities can he do on his own that are still fun and good for his development? Okay. This question for sure would apply to really all parents, and not just an ASD concern. For the families I work with, it maybe stands out a little bit more because when our children are not playing with something in particular, they tend to really look unproductive because their play skills tend to be limited to things that are really stereotypic in nature or look kind of atypical. The good news is that for most kids, there are things that you can get them to play with, that they're willing to play with, that are typical and can be beneficial. We always, of course, and again, all parents want their kids to be playing in ways that foster their development. The good news is that most typical play does that. Play is where a lot of our children learn important skills. It's even connected to language, maybe more than you realize. And so it's something that really is of value. I'll start off kind of with sort of some straightforward ideas, let's say, and go from there. So first off, for most of the guys I work with and girls, play activities that are in the direction of puzzles tend to be delivering the most payoff for playtime that is fairly independent. The good news is that it doesn't have to only be puzzles. That can be it, and of course, as you know, puzzles can get very complicated, so this is something that could last for a child's entire life. But when we talk about puzzles, I'm talking about skills that are visual performance in nature. So that also means things like Legos, right? So there are plenty of students I worked with, some who are quite impaired, who are still able to do Legos at the like age that they are. So like, you know, I can get a 3-year-old to do a 3-year-old set, a 6-year-old to do a 6-year-old set, and so on. And the tricky part, interestingly, really, is about teaching them how to use the instruction manual, because they're maybe not quite sure how to read that at first and understand it. But once they understand it, you could give them a new set, and they maybe could go through the new set and build it themselves and really like it. And again, it takes a while. So they can sit there, be playing independently, enjoying it, very typical NCOO. I'm thinking in my mind of sort of like two situations. So one is where a child really has really limited play skills and kind of needs a lot of supervision. Well, if that's the case, they need a lot of supervision. And so it's not going to be a situation where there's some magic activity that you can sit them down with and they'll just be fine. Maybe like an iPad or something, but that's not, you're not going to want to give them that for hours on end, right? So you may need to start with having them play with you there, but the activities that they're doing, you're trying to fade yourself out of, so that they become a little bit more independent and used to engaging with these toys with some minimal input from you, so that maybe you can get to a point where you're in the room but not really on top of them, so you're able to do your own thing while they're there, but you can have sort of an eye and ear out for what's going on. The other type I'm thinking of is a child who maybe has more skills and doesn't need quite such intense oversight. Well, in that case, it's more about finding the things that they would really enjoy, that they would like to do by themselves. And the good news about that is the activity in that case is not just simply about exposure, where you just sit them down here, give them this activity and expect them to either like it or not. You're going to need to spend some time trying to build up their interest in different things, much wider range. See what they like a little bit more than other things. Follow their lead in that way to find other activities that they really enjoy and help build that up. One of the real sort of drawbacks to our children's lives is their exposure to different types of play is limited by different factors that are kind of indirectly related, and so they're just not aware as much. It could be that they're not aware that certain activities exist. They could be just not aware about how to do the activity that's presented to them, or it could be that they don't know how to do it in a way that's fun for them. And so you know your child fairly well, and then you need to incorporate those elements into their play, and again, see what they like and where you want to go from there. So it sounds like we don't have time for any more. So thank you for staying with talk, and hopefully you found today's information helpful. If you have any more questions that you would like to ask us about, don't be shy about coming by for a consultation with one of our supervisors. It's free, so you don't need to worry about that end of it, and we'll be able to have a look at your situation and give you some feedback about next steps.